Welcome to What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Yellow Rose Canyon, your premier event space and campground nestled in the piney woods of East Texas. With cabins and RV sites available, Yellow Rose Canyon is perfect for your next event, no matter the size. A wedding, reunion, festival, you name it. Check it all out at yellowrosecanyon.com. All right, welcome to another episode of What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck, and today, very special tattooer guest, Christopher Scott, Wildman. He has been tattooing for over 15 years, and he has worked all over the country, lived in many different places, has an interesting story. He's birthed children himself. He has caught the child as is excavated from the womb. He is does wild tattoos, done lots of drugs, has a crazy upbringing, and he's still alive to tell about it. So get ready for that. Coming up right after this, I'm going to answer a few questions from the Gmail. Anybody got any questions you want me to answer, any questions at all, just email them over to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. If I do answer your question on the show, we will be sending you some cool free shit from What in the Duck Podcast. Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Anybody that subscribes will be automatically entered to win cool shit in our subscriber contest. And we also have a new membership program. You can become a member of What in the Duck Podcast on the YouTube channel and do all the things and help us get the word out about the podcast. First question I got from Brian. Looks like it's Brian O'Connor. What's up, Brian? He says, Oliver, my friend, 2 quick questions for you. I, as a fellow painophile, someone who has endured lots of pain in their life, you're right. The older you get, the much worse it gets. Was wondering your thoughts on numbing creams, both working on people who use it, tattooing and aftercare, and using it yourself. We do talk a little bit about this in this episode, about people that can't handle the pain, don't deserve the tattoo. I'm not a fan. I don't use it myself. I didn't use it myself when I got tattooed. I had not good experiences with it. All my tattoos hurt, and I survived. And I'm a fucking pussy. So if I can handle it, you can fucking handle it. It's okay to cry. I cried and screamed a lot. But look at me now, all tatted up. I also don't like tattooing when people put the numbing cream on. The experiences I've had with it is it does change the skin, and it slows down the tattoo process. And it somehow makes the skin a little bit more rubberier, a little bit more like rubber, and it doesn't accept the ink as well. And the tattoos I've done while people had numbing cream, they don't heal as vibrant and brightly, is what I've personally noticed. I've heard this from other people as well. And the other main problem is that as soon as the numbing cream rubs off, it instantly hurts, like all at once, instead of you gradually getting into this tattoo process. And people, instead of like continuing to finish their tattoo, they can't handle it and they stop an hour in and don't finish the tattoo, and then say, oh, I'll just come back next time and put more numbing cream on and do it again. And then they come back the next session and get an hour, 45 minutes or an hour worth of tattooing until the numbing cream's come off, and then they want to quit. And then they end up having 3-4 sessions in a tattoo that would have only taken one. And it also ends up costing more money because you spend more time and more sessions on the same tattoo when I could have just blasted it out in 2 or 3 hours Instead, now you're coming back 3, 4 times for a couple hour or more each time because they're set up and breakdown and all that shit. So you end up paying more for your tattoo. It ends up not looking as good, and you end up being a pussy. So it's a lose, lose, lose situation in my personal experience. So I tell people that I don't tattoo them when they have it on. There's been a few times that people just show up and already have it on, and I explain, hey, this is not going to be the best, but I'll do it, whatever. And then I usually am like, well, hey, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time it'll work. Maybe this time they'll be fine. And then exactly the same thing happens every time. So it bums me out. And so as soon as somebody comes in and they use it, I'm just like, ugh. But I do have a girl that I tattoo a bunch, and she always uses it, and she refuses to not use it, but she only gets tattoos that can be done in like 30 or 40 minutes. And pretty much whenever she gets a tattoo, I know that, hey, man, I got 45 minutes, knock this thing out. And that's all she's going to get. So there you go. Second part of the question, will you be coming back to Ireland anytime this year? If so, would it be possible for you to tattoo my second palm without it hurting? Ross Nagel did one of mine, and I'd love you to do the other. I said, answer to this question is, hopefully I will be going to Ireland. Planning on it. Don't have it planned, set in stone yet, but I do want to go back to Nagel Shop, back to Limerick. It's been a while since I've been there, so it is definitely on my plans. As soon as I can make it happen, I will be there. And yes, I could tattoo your palm, but no, I can't do it and it not hurt. So it will hurt, most definitely. The palm, for me, being one of the most painful spots I ever got tattooed. I just don't think there's any way around it. I have tattooed quite a few palms and quite a varied range of different responses. Some people, everyone says it hurts. Hands down, every single person that's got it said it hurts. Some people say it's not as bad as others. Some people say it's 100% the worst spot they ever got tattooed, like me. And other people say, oh no, like the neck or the armpit or the Achilles or something was worse or whatever. But no two ways about it. It's going to hurt. And I have seen people try to use numbing cream on the palm, and it didn't work. And now people are going under anesthesia to get tattooed, which me and Christopher talk about in this episode. And recently somebody died doing that. So I don't recommend that, because having a palm tattoo is not worth being dead. The only cool part about having the palm tattoo is being able to still be here after you get it. So just, it's going to hurt. If you don't want it to hurt, don't get it. Simple. All right. Thank you, Brian. Next question from El Brujo. Says, I'm a tattooer of 18 years. My apprenticeship was not bad. Did you have a rough Hayesfield apprenticeship? Have you heard horror stories of hazing by the boss? He says, I was studied by Larry D. He worked for Peter Tattoo Company. I think I might have been his final apprenticeship. Larry D. was a biker and traveling tattooer. By the time he got to me, he was a kinder man. Well, I learned a tattoo from Richard Stell, who was an asshole. Most people that know him would say so. I thought he was an incredible man, but an asshole nonetheless. And he would tell you fucking sucked. And he would tell you how bad it was, and how, he would smack you around a little bit. He wouldn't like punch you and blacken your eye, but he'd definitely whack you upside the head and call you a faggot or whatever the fuck, or tell you sucked, or tell you you're a fucking loser, or tell you fucking, if you had any kind of, if you got upset or butthurt about anything he had to say, he would promptly tell you to go home and cry to your fucking mother, because that's the only one that gives a fuck. If you're lucky enough to have a mother that gives a fuck. And he said, if your mother did give a fuck, she probably shouldn't give a fuck because she's, she's a fucking, she should be ashamed that you're her fucking son. He would say things like this. And I mean, look at me. I'm here. I made it. I survived. I learned a tattoo. I learned to fucking deal with harsh criticism, which is what you need to do in any field, especially in artistic creative field. You need to be able to hear negative comments on the things you produce, because you have to be able to strive to get better. You have to be able, you can't just, it's not all fucking pansies and gummy worms. You gotta have some rough guys fucking telling you what's up. I've heard a lot of stories about people getting hazed over the years and people getting, shit on and made to scrub the toilets. And I mean, yeah, you got to scrub the fucking toilet. You're the lowest man on the fucking pole. The toilet needs to be cleaned. Who do you think's going to clean it? The lowest man on the fucking pole. You know how long you got to clean the toilet? Until someone else is lower on the pole than you. So the motivation is to fucking shimmy on up. Shimming up that pole so you're not the guy cleaning the fucking toilets anymore. But, I mean, it's a simple fact of life. Someone's got to clean the toilet. And if it's you, that's not fucking, whatever it is you have to do to in your learning process. If you're the lowest man on the pole, you got to do the shitty jobs. And I would say that, if you can't handle harsh words or tough criticisms or being made fun of or, any of that shit, then you should get some job where you never have to see another human being, especially not some people that are going to come in and bleed and sweat and scream and cry and shake and yell and demand all over you while you're fucking trying to do a tattoo on them. There's a lot of ins and outs about tattooing that's not just all fun and games. It's like, it's cool to get to design a tattoo and it's cool to get somebody that want to get tattooed by you, but then you have to do the tattoo. And sometimes it's in somebody's butt crack, and sometimes it's in somebody's armpit, and sometimes it's on somebody that you don't really want to be near their arm crack or butt crack or armpit. So the hazing I got from Richard Stell was the least of my worries in my life. I was just lucky to be there and happy to make it through it. And what do they say? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Bingo. So also, I worked for Richard. You said the guy that you learned from, he became a kinder man. I worked for Richard during this transition of him becoming a kinder man, which maybe he became a kinder man to everybody, or maybe he just became a kinder man to me. But then there was a fallout, as there always is. And then there was rough patches where he was an asshole again. And then we were best friends again. That's life. But I don't know if I answered the question. I say this a lot. If you had an apprenticeship and it wasn't bad, then congratulations. I hope somebody still told you sucked, or still told you when you needed to do better. And I hope somebody still was like a little bit hard on you, so that you had some adversity to strive to get through. Bingo. All right. One more question, guys. This is from Harrison. Harrison says, I recently found the podcast and have been catching up on the episodes. Quality content. Hope there's more to come. Well, I hope there's more to come too. We've got more to come right now. Coming at you. He says, I know you're big into motorcycles, so I wanted to ask, if you had a chance to go on a ride anywhere in the world you haven't been yet on any bike, where would you start in the ride? What bike would you choose to do it on? Also, any future plans to come back to the UK to tattoo? I always have plans to go everywhere to tattoo. The last couple of years, travel was stifled over, due to the things that happened the last couple of years. But yeah, back to the UK. I'm on my way. Keep an eye out. I'll be coming to hopefully London and hopefully Liverpool and hopefully Brighton and all the cool places. One place, I've probably talked about this before, but one place I've always wanted to go, speaking of the UK, is the Isle of Man. There's a race in the Isle of Man And don't be confused. I don't want to do the Alaman race. That is insanity. But if you haven't ever seen the Alaman motorcycle race, you should check it out because it's crazy as fuck. But I've always wanted to go there. There's a road that goes around the island that's insane, and they race on this thing. And it's one of the last no-hold-barred races in the world where people literally just die every year doing it. I want to go over there. A, it'd be cool to watch the race, but B, I just want to go over there and ride around the Alaman because it's a really cool place, and it'd just be cool to ride on those roads and know. And since I would be going to the Alaman to do it, I'd probably just ride on whatever motorcycle I could obtain at that place at that time. But I would, if I could do anything I wanted to do, I would take a 1971 Electric Glide Harley Davidson, original paint sparkling burgundy bike from, the year I was born. And I would fly it over to London, ride around, get on the ferry, go to the Alaman, ride that badass motherfucker around those crazy roads at a slow, steady, chill pace and just enjoy the view and hopefully not die doing it. So that's what I would do. Who knows if that'll ever happen? But the possibility of just going to Alaman in general, that's a highly probable chance. But the chance of me actually riding an antique vintage Harley Davidson around the Alaman, that's probably pretty slim pickings. But one can dream. All right. Thank you, Harrison. Next up, we've got the episode coming up with Christopher Scott. If you don't know who Christopher Scott is, you can check him out. He's got a lot of cool stuff. He's got cool merch. He's got cool posters, cool T-shirts, cool handbags. He's got all the cool shit and great art, very unique, has his own style, influenced by, countless amazing tattooers. And he's got a pretty good story. So stay tuned. Check that out. Subscribe, comment, like, share, do all the things. Send me those questions over to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll send you some free shit. All right. Thank you, guys. What in the Duck Podcast is proud to be sponsored by Dream Machines of Texas. All of your used motorcycle wants and needs all in one place at dreammachinesoftexas.com. They have multiple locations, large inventory, and get new bikes in every week. Knowledgeable staff with great service, financing, and extended warranty options available. They also have a complete service garage, so every bike is gone through and brought up to speed before you hit the road. I've bought more than a few bikes from Dream Machines over the years, and I could not be more satisfied. I have also had friends from all over the country buy bikes because they couldn't find a better deal anywhere. You can buy a bike and have it shipped to you anywhere in the U.S. Why buy a brand new bike with that brand new high price when you can get a like-new bike with that dream deal you've been looking for? Go to dreammachinesoftexas.com and get a bike and get your ass on the road. All right, we're rolling. How you feeling?
Good.
Feeling good? Well, welcome to What in the Duck Podcast. I'm your host, Audra Peck, and today, here with my buddy Christopher Scott. Tattooer. You may or may not have heard of him. Born in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
But didn't live here very long.
Nope. After about a month, we moved to Oakland, the Northern California area.
And you spent how long there?
8 years. Yeah.
So childhood years.
Yeah. Formative years. And then my dad decided to get out of the Navy and convinced my mom to move to Alaska. So then we lived in Alaska for another 8 years, so another formative chunk, and then moved to New Mexico.
So where about in Alaska, and what are your ages from there? From like the age of 9 to 16 or something like that?
8 to 16.
8 to 16?
Yep. Yep.
So you left, like you're in high school when you left Alaska?
Yep. I was a freshman. I had just finished my freshman year.
All right.
Yep.
Were you upset to leave?
At that
or
point,
were you excited to get the fuck out?
At that point, I had like this friend group, and I just kind of got sponsored by the local shop for skateboarding. Yep. So that was a heartbreaker, but at the same time, it was a very small town, and you could only skateboard a couple months out of the year outside. So I was ready to go. Skateboarding was everything. So we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico,
where you can skateboard 100% of the time.
All the time. Yep. Land and ditches.
The desert and ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concrete jungle.
Yeah, man.
So you finished high school in Albuquerque.
Yeah. Well, I dropped out, but yeah,
Well,
those years.
man, I say it all the time, man. My one regret in life is I didn't drop out of high school.
It was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
God, I was such a pussy. I stayed in high school like a loser.
I can't believe my parents let me, because I was the firstborn and they had all these hopes and dreams for me, which ended up coming true in other ways, through tattooing. But yeah, me and my brother were getting in a ton of trouble and they were just sick of dealing with the principal. So, and in New Mexico, it's one of the few states where a GED is exactly equal as a high school diploma.
Oh,
So I was able to go to high or college with a GED.
all right. So you still got a GED.
Yep. I
Yeah,
did get my GED.
if I would have dropped out, I would have not got a GED.
Yeah.
I would have said, fuck it all.
It was sad, honestly, when you go to get it. Like, there's people that are 40 and 50 years old that are taking it for the third time.
Trying to get it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. So when did you drop out?
2002.
Was that, what year? Was that
So,
senior year, junior year?
senior. Yeah.
That's the best time to quit.
Yeah, all my teachers were heartbroken.
Right when
awesome.
you almost made it. Fuck it.
I had to go.
It shows you're serious.
I had to go to every teacher and get signed off by each teacher, and they were all heartbroken.
What happens if they don't sign off?
I don't know. I guess you're not allowed to. I don't know how that works.
You're like,
if you have to
I don't know
convince
if y'all
them.
understand this or not.
Yeah.
I'm fucking quitting.
I'm going to make your life terrible if you don't sign this paper.
So what did you do? Get a job?
No, my parents really wanted me to go to college, and I didn't have a great job at the time, enough to support myself. So I went to college for a year and then got a job at Whole Foods and quit college, and that was my thing. I was just going to work at Whole Foods forever. That was my goal.
Well, what squashed that dream?
Tattooing.
Yeah.
I tried to get into tattooing before. I got a whole sleeve by this guy in Albuquerque, and that was my plan, was to apprentice with him, but it didn't end up working out. He apprenticed like some other jujitsu guy because he was a jujitsu dude. And I was going to just start tattooing myself. And he was like, man, don't do it. He's like, you'll waste so much time trying to learn all this shit that you could learn real quick if you get an apprenticeship. So I just kind of put it on the back burner and kept getting tattooed. And I honestly I love tattooing, but I was like, just put it on the back burner and I'll just work at Whole Foods. And then it magically happened.
In Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And how'd that come about?
Jason Willis.
I love Jason Willis.
So I went and got tattooed by Jason Willis, and we were chatting, and I brought up Philip Liu, who wasn't a big name to regular people at the time. And so he was like, how do you know about Philip Liu? And I told him I just love tattooing and collected tattoo books and magazines. And he was like, well, we don't need an apprentice, but my good buddy has a super busy shop. And he's like, don't tell him you want to apprentice. Just tell him you want to mop their floors. Just go there and tell them you want to mop their floors. So I did. And he told me he put in a good word for me. And I don't think he ever did. But I went over there. I told him I want to mop your floors. You hiring? And then they called me the next day. And I was a front guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have told people before that have asked me about wanting to get an apprenticeship. I say, look, shops will hire you for a front helper, but they will tell you that learning the tattoo is not an option. But that is the way in the door. I literally told this girl, I was like, look, you can get a job. It's not an apprenticeship opportunity, but you will work in a shop and you will learn. And they will tell you that it's not an apprenticeship opportunity, but you have to be in there anyway, and that's how you get the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, I'll just stay waiting tables then. And I was just like, I'm telling you the cheat code. I'm telling you that they're going to say no, but they're still hiring you. So they're saying maybe.
Yeah,
at most, they're saying maybe. Possibly they're even saying yes.
Yeah.
But you have to go through.
Part of the test.
Yeah, and you failed the test.
Yeah.
And I even told her the answer before.
It wasn't meant to be.
So, Albuquerque, man, is a crazy tattoo town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shops, a lot of different kind of tattooing going on there. And there's a lot of well-known tattooers that kind of grew up there. And Brian Everett has a big name there and a big shop, and great tattooers from all over the world would go through Albuquerque for seemingly no other reason other than the fact that the certain people that were there.
Yeah. The guys I learned from apprenticed under Brian. Yeah, so they were from that whole era and had awesome stories about working at Fine Line, and I
Jack
think
Rudy coming to town, and
yeah, and I think it was when it was the only tattoo shop in New Mexico, they said, or maybe, the only legit shop. They had one in Albuquerque, one in Santa Fe. Jamie Trujillo was there. Um, yeah, everybody came from there. It was awesome. Yeah, so the guys that I learned under learned from them.
very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
And
yeah.
just this week, it's a rough week in tattooing. Jack Rudy just passed away,
Yeah.
and Brian Everett learning from him moving to
Hmm.
Albuquerque, him starting up basically the whole tattoo scene in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Albuquerque have a very close relationship to Jack Rudy, whether it's from who they learn from or who they learn from, or.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, he was such a big part of tattooing in every scene,
Yeah.
and every city. But Albuquerque was like a super,
Huge.
super close home for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, that fucked me up when I woke up to that news the other day.
It's been a lot of big hits this year, man. Jack was, yeah, I don't even know what to think about it all, you know?
I mean, I could tell 2 hours of stories just about Jack Rudy.
Sure.
Um, so you're in Albuquerque, you're learning to tattoo. How long did you tattoo in Albuquerque?
From 2007, I think about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And then I got the opportunity to go work for a guy in Bellingham, Washington. So I moved across the country to work for him. Well, not across the country, but
I mean, it's across the country,
it's a
dude.
long way. Yeah.
Yeah. Where is Bellingham?
It's pretty much the last major place before Canada on the coast of Washington. So it's like
So
a
the,
little harbor town.
all the way west, all the way north.
Yep. Yep. And I
Yeah.
worked there for about a year,
So it
and
can't be
then
too far from Seattle, but
no, that's how I got linked up with Ernie,
yeah,
was through there. Yeah, and then I went to the convention in Seattle.
very cool.
Yep.
Man, how did I'm surprised we didn't meet earlier because I went and worked at Tinta Cantina at at least like once a year.
Uh-huh.
When I would be driving out to California, I would or ride my motorcycle across country, and I would stop at Jason's and tattoo for a day and keep on trucking. Or we did bike riders tour through there a couple of years.
Yep.
Um, but Albuquerque was pretty spread out.
Yeah, and there, like you said, there's a lot of different tattoo styles there, and people. And for a while, I was getting tattooed by like some super fine line black and gray, like gangster dudes. And yeah, I was kind of all over the place, you know?
Yeah, very, very strange. I had some good times in Albuquerque, but it's very different than most places in the country. It's a very unique. Uh, it's crazy how massive and spread out it is, and then as soon as you leave the city limit, there's nothing in any direction for a while.
A while, yeah.
Like it is just this. It's an oasis in the desert, but the oasis is just more desert and buildings. There's not like it's a crazy place.
Yeah, my wife, when she came out there from the East Coast, she's all from the East Coast, and that was her big takeaway, was just that you could drive forever and there's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck getting a tree to grow.
Yeah, man.
A
Yeah.
lot of cactus.
A lot of cactus.
So you get this opportunity to move to Washington. How did that? I mean, what made you just say "fuck it"? I'm packing up and moving and going to a new place and starting over because that's always a big turning point in life when your career shifts gears and takes you away from where you've been for a long time.
So part of it was drugs, like I'd been doing a bunch
They
of
had
drugs
better
in
drugs in
Albuquerque.
Washington.
I've been doing too many of the bad kind of drugs in Albuquerque, and that was like my split. I had to get out. But also, I wanted to do traditional.
Huge drug problem
Yeah,
in
it's
Albuquerque.
it's right
It's
right on the two
insane.
freeways. It's crazy. Uh, and then I wanted to do traditional tattoos, and nobody in Albuquerque at the time was doing, in my opinion, super super traditional tattoos. So the people that I went and worked for up in Washington all did, and that's what I wanted to
How'd you meet these guys?
do. The owner of the shop was like an old coworker acquaintance. He knew the guy I worked for in Albuquerque, so they were old partners under Jamie Trujillo in Seattle. I don't know if you ever met him.
And just looking for new people.
Yeah, I think yeah, he just wanted new tattooers, and we had been like talking through, I think it was Facebook at the time, maybe. It was before Instagram. And Yeah, he just had a sick shop and was looking for a tattooer, so I moved up there. I took a shot in the dark. I always do like these big things, and just kind of like things work out
Yeah.
or they don't, and then you do something else
It always works out.
in some way.
Whatever it ends up being is what it is, and it
Yeah,
worked out.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so one of the first things that we kind of like bonded on when we first met was we both know Ernie Gosnell.
yeah.
And I was introduced to Ernie Gosnell my first year tattooing, first year of working for Richard. And Richard Stell and him were friends. And as soon as I kind of got to this point in tattooing where uh, Richard said I was okay to like just take the walk-ins and whatnot, he sent me to New Orleans to work at Ernie's and just do
Awesome.
walk-ins
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally had no idea what I was getting into, and it's literally just the endless line of the craziest little scribble tats for the smallest amount of money in the world. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
$20 names, and you're just as fast as you could do them. And it's just like that part of my learning to tattoo. That was the part that wasn't about how to tattoo. That was the part about learning how to deal with customers, learning how to be quick and efficient, and learning how to deal with crazy customers, and learning
Sure.
how to deal with the busy shop, and learning how to deal with all your coworkers. And it was like I came back to Dallas and back to Paradise Tattoo after that experience, and everything was easy. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, man, I was in the fire,
Yeah. Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Ernie's, and it was and then me and Ernie were, close for many, many years. And I haven't talked to him in a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I miss him, and I know he's getting old, but he has had a huge impact on a lot of tattooers.
Yeah, man.
How
When
did you hear? So you go up to Washington. How'd you hear about Ernie?
we went and did the Seattle convention. I did it with Brad, and that's when I actually first met Jack too. Brad, him and I became instant buddies, and he's like my tattoo big brother. And he was like, "Man, we're gonna go crash my buddy's booth from Triple Crown,
Yeah,
Scott." So
yeah,
Scott's like, "Yeah," he didn't even know me, and he's like, "Yeah, come work in my booth." And then Jack was directly across from Triple Crown, so Brad's like, "Hey, I'm actually gonna go work with Jack." So he left me in Scott's booth, and we were working right across, and we were hanging out with Jack and his wife, and that's the same time I met Ernie too. Ernie came through and he stopped at my booth and he's like, "Hey, I like this sheet of flash that you painted." And so I was like, "Oh, will you tattoo something off it on me?" And then I went to his shop a couple days later and he tattooed it on me.
very cool.
Uh-huh. Yep. So that's how we met.
Was that the Lucky Devil South shop?
Lucky Devil South. Yep.
Yeah,
And then I moved down there with Brad shortly after that. And we had a wild time in Seattle. Brad and I, yeah. And worked for Ernie for maybe a year at Lucky Devil South.
very cool.
Yeah.
Man, when Ernie left New Orleans, it was like very strange because he was such a New Orleans guy,
Yeah.
and him and Lynn opened up that shop, the first shop that was the what do they call that area of town? Uh,
I've never been to New Orleans.
oh no, when he moved to Seattle, they
Oh, to
opened the shop,
Seattle.
the
It was
College Hill or whatever it's called up there,
Capitol Hill. Yeah,
Capitol
yeah,
Hill
yeah.
shop,
It's like the hipster area.
and Ernie was just like, I can't take this shit. I
Yeah.
need to go open a shop in the ghetto.
When they got a divorce, he said, "Keep it."
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, as soon as they got that shop open,
prior. Yeah.
he was like, I can't take it. I'm gonna go find me a ghetto street and open a shop in the ghetto. And then he was at Lucky Devil South from there on out. And then
Yeah.
when they split up, he's like, I don't want none of it.
Yeah.
But
That's his style, and that was cool to go work there because he was part of that block. Like that shop had been there when I got there 15 years or 16 years, and there was multiple people that stopped in every single day.
oh, well,
The
he
daily
instantly,
characters.
the day he opened, he made friends with every place in that neighborhood.
Yeah, man.
And it was a real neighborhood vibe.
Yeah, the tattoo man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
And for me, that was really at my point in my career where I got to immerse myself in tattoo history and like tattooing, because before that, in Albuquerque, again, nobody had like, I don't want to say nobody had an interest, but nobody that I could find really had like, like Ernie had like
Historical
all the
documents.
shit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's why I got to really be immersed in it while tattooing $25 names.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So great.
Yeah.
And so then how'd you end up I mean, we might skip a little bit of your story here, but now you're living, like, rural. You're living off you're living in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Pretty much, yeah, we got kinda like the setup where we're out in the middle of nowhere, but we're close to town.
Yeah,
It's like the ideal setup. We're not an hour from town, but we're 20 minutes, you know?
yeah. And you like this out of city living.
Yeah, especially I like it in general, yeah, but for my children, it's amazing, but even just for myself, we live on the river. I have an acre and a half with 200-year-old oak trees and a house from the 1800s, and I love it.
Sounds incredible.
I love it.
But you still need to have clientele, and you still need to have business, and you still need to be tattooing usually is the busiest in the concentrated areas,
Mhm.
like the busiest tattoo shops, in the city. And so you're in this situation where you're trying to juggle some traveling and tattooing and
Yeah, I like to do I mean, we were talking when it's slow, I'll travel, or when I feel the need to recharge that tattoo battery, you know? Luckily, my wife is super supportive and she sees every time I travel, like your old business partner, you come back and you're like, dude, look at this, check this out, all these new things. And, you're fired up. So, yeah, it's an investment, and I like it. I like to travel. When I was a child, my parents were constantly traveling, and took me everywhere, and it's in my blood.
well, you got 3 kids,
Yeah.
and you envision this point where you're gonna be tugging this family along on some tattoo travels.
We already have.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a little slower with the third child who's a year and a half, but right when she was born, when she was 6 months old, I went on a tattoo trip and I tattooed in Atlanta and North Carolina. And we all went together.
very cool.
Yeah, we took when my oldest son was 2, me and my wife took him on a 6-month tattoo trip all up the West Coast, all up the coast and down through the mid section of America.
So to back up a question about the drugs you're doing in Albuquerque,
So
you said the bad drugs,
yeah, pills,
yeah,
opiates. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just being sluggish and beat down and sucking the life out of you.
Yeah, you kind of start to feel hollow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so in contrast to that, what are the good drugs?
I guess, it's all like what you call a drug,
Yeah,
and what's good and what's bad because that stuff taught me a lesson.
yeah,
So maybe that was the good drug.
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of, I guess, how you look at it.
Would you? At what point did you get into in Albuquerque? Did you get any psychedelic drugs at all when you're in Albuquerque?
Yeah, when I was a kid, almost every person that sold weed also sold cocaine and LSD.
Yeah,
So I did it all at a
yeah.
young age. Right when I moved to Albuquerque, I was always like ready to escape because that's what art was for me before then. It's like my way to escape.
Well, your art is definitely representational of the psychedelic realm, and a lot of stuff that you do. And someone like Scott Harrison does a lot of art that people always thought that he was tripping to come up with all this stuff, but he was not tripping. He's just actually insane. Um, how much of your artistic influence do you attribute to psychedelic drugs, or how much do you attribute to just being insane?
Well, I mean, that's like Dali, they asked him if he did drugs and he said, I am drugs, or
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he's the reason I did LSD in the first place. Is
yeah.
is Dolly, because I loved Dolly's in high school, and it's like,
Yeah. So I took massive amounts of psychedelics when I was younger. But the last time I really did a big dose of psychedelics was all over 2 years ago. I don't take them often. I kind of got in the train of meditation for a while,
yeah.
and that was like, yeah, I thought that was because I got my vision.
Well, I did a lot of psychedelic drugs, a lot of LSD when I was younger, and what I explain to people is that you don't need to do it again. Like, once you've done it, you've opened this doorway into that line of sight.
Yeah.
So you can still have that line of sight from a past experience.
Yeah.
You don't have to trip every week to stay in it. So a lot
Mhm.
of people get a heavy influence from the psychedelics, and then it lasts them a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think if you keep doing them, you know, not the most productive while you're fucked up. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, you know, even Alex Gray does a lot of DMT, but he's not, he's experienced that, and then he does all the paintings. He's not, I don't know for exactly what he's doing, but he's definitely not like smoking DMT all day long and painting while he's high. That's
Sure.
not the case.
Yeah, and I find, and everyone's different, but when I do something like that, it's lasting.
Yeah.
And there was a time where I was smoking a lot of DMT, but then it's like anything, like we talked about the bad drugs, it's like any medicine can be a poison real quickly,
Yeah.
and all that stuff can drive you insane. Meditation can drive you insane. Anything can drive you insane.
Yeah.
Or are you, so it's like you can lean into it or you can do whatever. It's all a game, you can use whatever way you want. You know? I don't know. I'm just I don't really have, when I sit down and draw or look at something, I don't sit there and, try to conceptualize it from some kind of psychedelic
Yeah.
experience I've had. I look at it and I play with it.
Yeah.
I just play with images.
Just see what happens.
Yeah.
But you obviously have your own creativity, and you have your own style, and you've kind of got to this point in tattooing where you're known for what you do, which is always a great place to be, And I think that you have a very interesting mix because you still tattoo heavily traditionally. This like the mechanics of tattooing and what you do is very traditional, but then your imagery and the way you work with stuff and the way you mix stuff up, it gives it something super unique,
Yeah. Thank you.
which I think is you got a pretty good following. You got people that want to get tattooed by you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you know, that's just probably what most tattooers are looking for. Just to have it, everybody's trying to find a niche.
Yeah. That was always the dream. That was always what I was working for. Like the breadcrumb
Yeah.
or the carrot on the stick. It's like, but I'm also like the people's tattooer, I'm not the kind of person who's gonna be like, here's my set things of flash that you choose from. People contact me and say do whatever you want or do this or that, but I like tattooing for the people. I
Yeah.
like doing what the people want. And if it gets to a point where people want tribal and names again from me, then I'll do that because I did that for 11 or 12 years and I have no problem doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little bit of a pickiness where I don't want to just there's certain things that I'm just like that I don't want to do, but I explained it to the customer, and I was like, "Look, there's a reason that I don't want to do this certain thing, and it's not just because I don't like it and I don't want to do what you want. It's because I've done it and it didn't work out so great.
100%.
So I want to not make the same thing. I don't want to keep doing a bad owl over and over again."
Yeah.
And the last guy I did an owl tattoo on, he was like, "I really want this owl chest piece." And I was like, "Man, I don't really do owls because he's like, "Well, why?" I was like, "If you show me the owl you want and I think I can do it justice, then yes, then I will do it." And I could put my little bit of spin on it, but I didn't have to. But I've drawn a bunch of owls and I did a bunch, and I'm just like, man, you see them a year later, and like, oh, I shouldn't have done that tattoo.
Yeah.
This one I did on this guy's full chest. I mean, it turned out great. It's not my complete design. He had the image. I
Sure.
made it work or whatever.
Hmm.
And that's why I try to explain to people. It's not just because I don't want to do I mean, kind of you don't want to do what you want to do, but I also want to make sure I'm going to give somebody the best thing I can.
I want to sleep at night. I care
Yeah.
very much about what I'm doing.
But also, when the older you get, the light at the end of the tunnel is getting closer, and you're like, how many more full chest fronts am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The number is less than it was 20 years ago. So do I really want to just keep? How many more bad tattoos do I want to do? I'd rather do a great tattoo. I want to do
Yeah.
something that schools are going to be stoked on.
Yeah.
So most people instantly embrace this mentality, and I talk them through it, and then we end up doing something cool.
Yeah.
You know, I known other tattooers that be like, "No, I don't do that," and then the customer's mad at them for not doing it, and I don't wanna do that either.
Yeah.
Um,
I learned a lot about talking to people through Dave Cruzman.
oh, man, he's great.
I learn everywhere I go, and that was one of the big takeaways at Dave's shop was how he talked to customers because he was very good at laying out exactly what you just said
Mhm.
about what's going to make the maximum, the best tattoo from him.
And working within what I can offer you.
Yeah, 100%.
So, that was one of Dave Cruzman's strong points when he was on the Ink Master show.
Mm.
Um, because a lot of that competition and a lot about being on that show, obviously being confident and being able to tattoo under pressure, that's one thing. So more older seasoned tattooers can handle that.
Yeah.
But the big thing is you have to tattoo this. Today's challenge is this. And here's your customer that wants some very specific idea and they want it in this spot or whatever. And then the biggest struggle is dealing with that customer in this
Sure.
very short amount of time frame on camera. You've got an hour to talk to this customer or 30 minutes talk to this customer. Then you have 3 hours to draw this tattoo and then instantly you start tattooing, you have 6 hours to tattoo it. So it's like all one boom, 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 boom. Dave Cruzman, you could give him anything, any customer on that line, and he's got them eating out of the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
And they're getting a cool tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then everybody complains that he didn't have to do exactly all this rigmarole. Other people in there fighting and struggling, trying to do some crazy thing on some crazy lady's ribs and all this crazy. They're trying to throw everything she wanted into it. I'm just trying to give the customer what they want. I was like, yeah, but you're fucked.
Yeah. You can't do that. It has to be that collaboration.
So that was his strong point.
Yeah, man.
And he is a solid tattooer and has a specialty and he killed it when he killed it, he killed it. And when it wasn't his day, he did the best he could and he wasn't the worst.
Yeah.
Some days in that show, your whole goal is just not be the worst one. Which is not real tattooing.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of tattooers watch this show and they're like, this show's bullshit. I'm like, hey, man, this show is not real tattooing. This is a competition reality TV show.
Yeah.
It's a game show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not meant for, like I said earlier when we were talking, it's not designed to cater to the audience being tattooers.
Yeah. It's theatrics.
But yeah, speaking of Dave Cruzman, man, he has that way of dealing with people that makes them stoked to get a tattoo from him.
Yep, and it's not talking them into something they don't want. It's working with them and finding the best option that he's going to give them. Yeah, it's great.
I try to do that, and I try to make sure that, the customer's going to be stoked with what I can do with what they want.
Yeah.
You said earlier, a lot of people just say, hey, do whatever. And people think that's like the best thing that someone can come to you with. I'm like, it's not, unless you did a painting the night before and you'd be stoked to tattoo it. You're like, oh, you know what? I just did this painting. It'd be great. Otherwise, it's like, you got to give me some direction.
Yeah. I started doing a list of don'ts, like what they don't want. That works pretty good too.
Well, I tell people straight off the bat, they're like, if you do whatever you want. I said, if you don't want a skull and snake, then you need to say so. Because if you say do whatever I want, you're going to get a skull and snake.
That's a good idea. Just come up with the constant.
I mean, that's my constant. Because no matter where it is on the body, no matter what it is, no matter what shape, what size, what position, what spot, I can draw a skull and snake to fit any spot.
Yeah, totally.
Big, small, weird, wiggly, in between two tats, you name it, I can put a skull and snake in there. And some people are just like, instantly, they're just like, oh, cool. Or they're like, I don't really want a snake. Some people just don't want snakes. So I was like, well, then you got to tell me something. You told me what you don't want. You got to tell me something. But that's, I don't have a bunch of adverse clients, people that are coming to get tattooed by me. They know.
Yeah.
There's a few people that email that want, a tree or a portrait or something. And I'm just like,
not the guy.
I mean,
when I worked at walk-in shops, that was the one thing I'd turn down was portraits.
What about trees?
No, I tattooed a tree.
Nothing worse than a tree, dude.
I worked in Washington State for a long time. I tattooed
A
a
lot
shit
of
ton of
trees.
trees.
A lot of
Gotta do
trees.
it. Yeah.
So you're talking about opening a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to not talk about that yet?
I don't care.
So you're talking about opening a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
You got the spot lined out.
Yep.
What's the timeline on that?
Well, that's the thing is it's a historical building and the lady's waiting for a grant. So could be a year.
Yeah.
So, but I'm in a really cool spot, so it's not a rush. I'm just kind of taking it easy. But the benefit to that is she's building, like she's custom renovating this house from the 1700s for me.
That'd
So
be cool.
yeah.
What's the goal? Big sign out front, a bunch of tattooers in there, or just private booth only?
However, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to have it to where there was people walking in there. I'm teaching somebody how to tattoo for the first time in my 17 years of tattooing, and he's a badass sign painter. So
Ooh.
he's making the sign of all signs of his career for the front of it.
Well, let's hope that he doesn't give up sign painting
No, that's one of the benefits so when he came into tattooing,
because that is a dying art.
they go together. He saw how they go together, and he's a big time history guy. That's how we got kind of linked up, and he's just fully into the history.
Because I love that Ernie Gosnell always painted signs.
Yeah, man.
He would tattoo and paint, and I almost think that the sign painting he did had more of impact on people than the tattoos he did.
Definitely.
I mean, I hate to say it, but like a young kid tattooing, dime a fucking dozen. Somebody who can still sign paint and still work with oil paints and still work with the right brushes and still create that stuff, like, like only a handful of guys are still doing it. That shit is impressive.
Yep. It's going to be just like we talked about earlier with tattooing. The people that know the craft and know how to do it. Like for me, I do have an iPad and I use it, but I was against it for years. But now it's like it's kind of whatever, but if you know how to do something on paper, like I can do everything I do with an iPad on paper. I can just do it faster and my mind does not categorize things well, so it keeps all my shit in one place.
Yeah.
But I learned how to do everything on paper first. I know how to do all the stuff on paper that I can do on an iPad, and I think that's important. Um, but that's one of the reasons that I love this guy and I'm teaching him how to tattoo is because, yeah, right into tattooing, it's all, you know, the history.
Yeah, but also knowing that he's a sign painter, he's going to have that finger and hand control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His tattoos, he's on tattoo number 10 or 12, and they look better than the first 5 years of my career. But we talk about with him, like, I'm very, like, I'll nitpick every tiny little thing he does. And I tell him, because I know it's hard when you're first starting to sleep at night. At least it was for me. And I know he cares like I do. But we talk, it's like a distillation of knowledge, like I'm taking everything I've learned in 17 years and putting it into
Yeah.
the first year of his career, because he's ready for it, you know.
I mean, that's a lot of work on your part.
It is.
People ask me about apprenticing people, and I'm literally like, I don't have the time for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of conversations about that. So you found someone who you believe in that you're teaching a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
What is he giving you in return for learning the tattoo?
We as a joke, but it's still awesome. He found me that bottle dump I go dig in from the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
He found that spot for me.
Oh,
So
really?
I joke that was his payment for the apprentice. That was his foot in the door. But he paints signs for me. He's coming. We know that it's not going to be exactly a traditional apprenticeship, but he still wants it to be. So I give him apprentice duties like painting the floor and
But you don't have like a set in stone contract where he's going to pay X amount of dollars, or he's going to work for you for X amount of years afterwards, or he's going to do this, or he's going to do.
we've made an agreement that it's going to be X amount of years after, but ideally he'll become a partner after X amount of years is the goal for me. Or if we split paths, then it's because we talked about that. I've seen so many apprenticeships go wrong, or one person thinks it's X amount of years and the other they never agreed on it.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many awesome relationships get destroyed. So we made sure we got that
Well, what I see happen is people apprenticeship, and then they get a couple years in, and they're working for the guy, and then they all of a sudden think that they deserve more and more, and they end up leaving and going and prematurely like opening their own shop or prematurely going somewhere else, or and it's just like, man, all you got to do is just stay, um and do it the right way. But I mean, people ask me like, how much should it, and I've had people literally email me questions like, how much should I pay for an apprenticeship? And I was like, well, whatever you pay for it, it's worth it. You know what I mean? If the old days, I wouldn't expect anybody to do it like they used to, where you just like trade it for working the front counter.
Right.
Because nowadays people literally can't afford to live and
Mhm.
just work for free and do that job.
Yeah.
Um,
Even when I did it took a lot,
yeah,
and that was in 2007. That wasn't that long ago.
no,
Yeah.
pretty insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's getting increasingly harder and harder of a thing to come by. Like learning to tattoo and kind of just learning what's on the internet and equipment being readily available and people being able to get into it really easy. That's uh that's out there, and people are learning tattoo every day without any regard.
Yeah.
But actually finding someone that's gonna sit down and give you the 15 to 20 25 years worth of information in that first year, that's getting increasingly harder to come by, I think.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
agree.
which is strange because there's more tattooers now, but less people are willing to like take on.
I've been learning a lot through my kids. My 9-year-old, we're kind of going through that because he spent 4 years learning piano and put in a lot of work. But he's kind of getting to that age where he's kind of like, well, what's an instrument I can learn that's easy, you know? And he wants to find these things that are quick and easy kind of avenues, and I think it's really appealing to people these days because everything's supposed to be fast, and you know
Yeah.
that's everything looks shiny, and there's all these things that they can just order and do and bypass all these things and shortcut, and I don't know.
Well, one of the things we were talking about earlier is when we brought up the whole Scott Harrison video thing, we were talking about, a tattooer that had to go get another job,
Yeah.
and the guy that had to get a job in the sewage treatment plant. Um, that was a time in tattooing where, not everybody could make their sole source of income just from tattooing.
Yeah.
And we kind of hit that point again this last year, and there are a lot of tattooers around the country that are getting other jobs. And you were telling me, people that have got some second jobs, and
Hmm.
when they got into tattooing, they didn't think they'd ever have to do that.
Yeah. 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 I'm fortunate that I started like the merch side of my
Yeah.
career, and I established that a long time ago, and that's something again I did for fun, but the things you really do for fun usually pan out in
Mm.
some way, and that's been huge for me and my family for sure. But that and tattooing has supported me for 17 years, and I'm very thankful. I think about all the time that I never have had to do that.
Do you think that the rate of new tattooers coming in is going to slow down now? Like if somebody's thinking about learning that tattoo, and the tattooers they know also have to have another job to get by, do you think
Sure.
that's going to less entice people to jump into it?
It definitely seems so. I mean, why would it not?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the people that are learning to tattoo or jumping into tattooing are paying attention to what's going around them or not. I think
Yeah.
they might just see what they see through the glimpse of the internet and think that this is the way to go.
You
Because
you see it all being mirrored on the internet. You see the younger people mirroring each other with all the way they post and take reels and what their content is, and yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, but I definitely think it would start panning people out.
I'm very interested to find out
Yeah,
what
it'll be
what
fun.
what happens in this next couple of years. I personally think that we are gonna this dip in the economy we've had. I think it's gonna make a turn and turn back up. I think things are gonna come back around. I think that it's gonna take a little while, but depending on what things transpire, it could bounce back pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I think what we learned in the last couple of years is how volatile the market is, in our own sense, and just how everything fluctuates. When gas and food are high, people have less money to come get tattooed.
That's it, man.
And yeah, I think a lot of people have changed the tune on what their priorities are
Yeah.
in in what they think necessities are.
Yeah.
So I think the last couple of years everybody's acting like worrying about climate change has been a big necessity. And now most of those people are like, who cares about climate change? Let's just get the gas price down. So
Yeah, when it hits home, it changes.
yeah.
Yeah, when you feel it, it changes.
Oh, people are feeling it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm thankful every day that people want to get tattooed by me at all. You know,
Well,
very
I
thankful.
don't think people are going to stop wanting to get tattooed. I don't think that.
No, I don't
But I
think so
think
either.
the amount of surplus income people have to spend on tattooing is what's going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
And tattooing got to a point where it was, I think in a lot of senses was maybe the prices were too inflated. So if the prices have to come back down to a more reasonable level, then I think that'll be fine. So I'm not worried about that from that point of view.
Yeah, it's just all a game and how you play it. You can look at it from any different way, but like you said, it's all just interesting to watch and fun to play, and I'm thankful to be here playing it.
Well, I think the people, like you said, make it fun. It's going to work out for you, right?
Yeah, if it's not fun, then it's probably not going to work out.
But that's what I think the people that truly love tattooing and the people that are in it because they truly love tattooing, those people are going to be fine.
Yeah, and it's not like, there's been times where I've struggled and struggled hard, and that brings things too, but you struggle towards something that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
The end goal is fun.
Oh yeah. But I think if any of these people that have jumped on the bandwagon the last couple of years, as soon as it gets hard, they might have to go find another bandwagon to jump on.
Maybe it'll be fun to see who sticks around, man.
Oh my
Who's
God.
left? Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question. I know you've had some battles with some, I don't even know what to call it, some internal shit you were dealing with your
My gut.
diet.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the name of the affliction?
I think from what like they said, it was something like leaky gut.
Okay.
Yeah, which is like it's just basically like your stomach is fucked up when you eat stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like a reaction to certain things, or it's
I think most of it was probably just stress.
ulcer type shit.
Yeah. I let stress get the best of me, and I stress out about things that I shouldn't.
You seem so chill. What are you stressing about?
Yeah, it's calm on the outside and chaos inside. That's why I smoke so much weed, is because chaos inside.
But you did some very drastic dietary changes.
Yeah, I'm always like, just like
Search and see what's going to make it work.
yeah, just like tattooing, everything's an experiment. I like to test and try things, and I don't know. I tried everything. Tried raw vegan, tried carnivore, tried gluten free. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I should probably just learn to relax, which I'm not great at. That's why I make so much shit too. I'm like, I
Yeah.
constantly have to be making things and finding things and doing things.
You are a very productive artist, which is, why you have so much out there and so much for people to see, and when you always have something new to put out for people to look at, you're gonna gain that traction.
Yeah.
So, a lot of, maybe it's good that you have that tortured soul that you gotta keep getting the shit out of there.
It's all part of it. But that's why I think the stuff that I'm getting out resonates with other people, because it's stuff we're all human. Humans deal with a lot of similar things.
Very true.
We're all tortured souls.
Well, what are some of the things that you did that you found benefits from versus things that you tried and didn't seem to work
Health
out?
wise?
Yeah.
Definitely going outside barefoot every day. I go outside
Getting
in the sun.
grounded.
Yeah, every morning I go out in the sun and try to see the sunrise. Um, I think that's one thing about tattooing that I've noticed is I'm inside all the time. So
Yes.
trying to get outside has been probably the number one priority in my health journey. And I don't really care much about, no, I shouldn't say I don't care much about anything else anymore, but that's number one. And like I was talking about food, food is kind of like I'm going to do my best. I do like to try to eat like, you know, we have a farmer's market where we live. And so all spring, summer, and fall, we go to the farmer's market as much as possible. I do like to eat local, but that goes in hand with like supporting local businesses and everything, like everything should meld together.
Yeah.
Cutting out processed food, you know.
Yes. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Legacy Ink, the finest in tattoo pigments. I've been using this ink exclusively for over 20 years myself. It has been recently rebranded and marketed, but it has been the same recipe for decades. Real, hand-mixed tattoo pigments that heal great and last. People always comment on the yellow that I use and the yellow tattooed on me, my favorite, the Mayan yellow. I have seen countless 20-plus-year-old tattoos with the colors still vivid. Don't duck around with all these newfangled companies with their watered-down baloney. Get the tried, true, and tested good shit. You can find them on Instagram at Legacy Pigments or email Ashley today to place an order at legacyartsupplies@gmail.com. Tell them Oliver sent you and receive a special discount. Don't just do tattoos. Be part of a legacy.
Soda, all that shit.
Have you noticed that helps at all?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing for me is the sugar.
Yeah.
I try not to, my coffee is sugar-free. And I mostly drink water.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while I drink, a sugary drink or eat a little bit of candy or whatever. But man, if I get a little bit, it just makes me want more and more and more. But all the processed foods have really been, that's been making a big stink. A lot of people are up in arms about the processed food and about how unhealthy we are as a country is kind of out of control.
Yeah.
And so we try to just be knowledgeable about what I'm eating.
Yeah.
And so everybody every day at the shop, somebody will have something that we're snacking on. Like, you want this? I'm like, I grab it. I look at the ingredients. I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you can't have it because you're vegan? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's vegan, but I'm not going to eat it because it's got, all these crazy words you can't pronounce and all this stuff in there. And I wish I knew more, actually had real knowledge, but I only have all this hearsay. I just know that like high fructose corn syrup and processed seed oils and all these things and that you don't know what they are. And if you don't know what it is, don't eat
It
it.
can't be great for you.
And that's what I say. I'm like, hey, you don't even know what any of this is.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna eat it? I'm like, I want to know what it is if I'm gonna eat it. And so that's just kind of where I sit.
Yeah, like if the ingredients list is over 4 or 5 things, then there's probably
in there?
what's in it. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, my son, he recently heard that Japan outlawed GMOs or doesn't have GMOs.
Yeah.
He's like, Dad, moving to Japan.
I hope they do it here.
Dude.
I hope they do it here. The problem with, the one thing everybody says is bad for you is corn, right? The corn oil, the corn syrup, the corn. I love popcorn.
I mean, Native Americans ate it.
I wonder if just popcorn is still bad for me. All this other corn stuff is bad.
Well, I know that when I was going through some gut stuff like 15 years ago, I had to get an upper endoscopy where they looked in your guts.
Yeah.
And I couldn't eat popcorn for like 2 weeks before.
Because they would
fuck it all up. It just sits in there forever, which is weird.
Yeah.
But it is good.
I eat a lot of popcorn. So when you say, there's no like specific diagnosed disease, so to say.
I haven't been to a real doctor in a long time.
You just have problems.
I think I had sorted out most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was through some diet where you supposedly reset your gut.
Yeah.
You start with super simple foods and just work your way up. So
yeah,
for about 2-3 years, I think I felt pretty good. Maybe about 2 now. Yeah,
good.
But I also don't like the whole diagnosis
Yeah.
thing, like we all have this and we all have that and we're all I don't know. We all have shit.
Y'all got something?
Yeah, man.
I say don't get tested. You won't know what it is.
Yeah. Just relax.
Yeah.
That's all I need to do is relax.
I didn't. I'm not saying I know everything about you, but I didn't know that you weren't so relaxed. You seem so chill.
Yeah. I can be, I
Yeah.
guess. I practice it. It's my practice in life.
You got the cadence of a chill person.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Like when people say it in front of my wife, she'll laugh.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's my practice.
Practice. I mean, you got kids. You got to be patient if you got kids.
I try. Yeah, it's hard, but yeah.
I mean, I had a very impatient father, and I was a, a terror of a child, and my father just, it's not good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a lot like him. I cannot have kids. It'll be the same.
It's very generational, like I find myself doing the same stuff my dad did and I watch my grandpa do. And that's like heartbreaking, but it's part of why I'm a dad. It's
Yeah.
like this is my chance to like set it off course a little bit, you know? But I think that's also like a thing. Like I know you're a little bit older than me, maybe 10, 12-ish years at the most, you're 50 something, right?
53.
Yeah, so you're 13 years older. But I've been finding a lot that like uh our dads were kind of like super hard and like not great and super straight laced for the most part. And then our generation, is like skateboarding and punk rock and fuck everything. And now the next generation of kids, they're all like straight laced and like, they're back on this thing.
So your oldest kid is
He's 9.
9 years old, and I mean 9. He's a real human being.
Yeah, he's like
Like you have kids that are like 1 and 2 and 3. They're just ambiguous noise shit making machines.
My kids are brilliant though.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that to be like that guy about his kids, but my son is like a 16-year-old trapped in a 9-year-old's body. My soon to be 5-year-old, I mean, she's been having full conversations since she was like just 2 years old. I mean, they're smart kids. They get it. Yeah.
They're going to graduate high school.
My kid, well, we homeschooled my 9-year-old, and then with the third kid, my wife couldn't do it anymore, so we put him in school this year, and he hates it. So that's where I see myself in him now, is he hates it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll let him drop out though.
I've just been amazed by children that like school. I
Yeah.
never understood it. Like my little brother loved school. I hated school. And I'm like, in my mind, it's like, it's obvious that you're supposed to hate school. Like, just because of my rebellious nature. It's like, you have to be here at 8 a.m. Well, right there, fuck, I hate it
Yeah.
already. Just
Then
by telling me I have to be there. You're already against me. You're already on that side, and I'm already on this side. So it's like a battle to the death. And the kids that love school, I just what about it do you love?
Yeah.
Like you could be riding your bike, you could be skateboarding, you could be fucking throwing rocks through windows, you could be stealing bubble gum, you could be doing anything, but you'd rather go to fucking school and sit there at a desk and listen to some fucking adult and yammer about shit you don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. That doesn't make no sense to me.
Yeah.
Um,
There has to be all sorts of characters, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I did say earlier that I regret that I didn't drop out. I'm also amazed that I graduated.
Yeah, that is impressive.
Well, it's not really impressive because I did nothing, and I went to high school at a time where they just kind of just give you a D and push you along, give you a D and push you along, and so I just barely skated through, and my mom did a lot of the homework, and I just skipped school a bunch and skateboarded, and was actually surprised. If I got my report card and I passed everything, I would be genuinely surprised.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess I'm lucky that I went to school at that time, or I would have just dropped out or getting kicked out or failed or whatever, and then I would have did something else. But I've never been like a lazy person.
Yeah, even when I was on drugs at the worst of my worst, I was always working and painting and doing shit.
Yeah, even when I was on drugs, I was selling drugs.
Yeah,
I was like busting my ass at to do whatever I could do,
Yeah.
which is that's a whole other story. So where are you at in the next coming years? You think the shop will be open and you think you're in your permanent home, staying put?
Well, I move every 2 to 3 years, and this was my time to break that. So I'm trying to break that cycle. So I've been where I live now almost 4 years, and I'm gonna try to ride it out. It's like I started figuring out I could move and start over again, and I always find stuff I don't like about a place and then move.
Yeah.
So I decided to dig my heels in here and make it home.
Well, that's cool.
So we'll see.
Man, I have literally done the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like I planted my roots in Dallas right out of high school and started tattooing, and I never left.
Yeah, man.
Travel a lot though.
Yeah.
I did learn. We were talking earlier about traveling. I learned very young in the traveling and tattooing was like the thing. Like the guy when I started working for Richard, at least 1 week a month, he was somewhere. Like he would leave and go work at Tattoo City for the weekend, or go to San Antonio, work at Perfection, or go to Austin, or go to Houston, or go to Florida, or go to New York. And he was like going to conventions and going to guest spot at shops. And back then it was cool because you were like no internet. You would just like he would draw a flyer that said Richard Stell, Tattoo City, blah blah blah, and then they would pin it up all over town or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how that was my introduction to a tattooer life. So I started as soon as he would let me, he took me to some tattoo conventions, and then I started going to guest spots, and I once a month, pretty much for 20 years, I went somewhere,
Yep.
either a convention or a shop or whatever. And that if I would have just stayed in Dallas at one shop and never left for like 5 years, I probably would have been like, it's time to pack up and move somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was like going somewhere every month. And it was cool to come home and cool to have this same home base forever, which is now the saving grace to everything. Cause now I have this like solid foundation here in Dallas that's, basically 30 years strong, which is great.
That's the ultimate, I think, is when a tattooer stays in one place most or all of their career and travels.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate.
But without the traveling and without the experience and without the getting out and coming home and being happy to come home, it's any place will lose its luster. No matter
Yeah.
how great it is. If you never leave, you want to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
But heavy travel schedules was my secret sauce
Yeah.
and you can be busy and you can make a decent living staying in the same place. But you can go, like you're coming here for a week. You can come here and everybody clamors in to get tattooed by you real fast while you're here for a couple days. I could do the same thing. I go to LA and just tattoo nonstop for 3 or 4 days. If I lived in LA, I would tattoo those same amount of people, but in the whole month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if I lived in LA, I wouldn't be that busy. I'm only busy in LA because I'm only there 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yeah.
lived in New York or lived in Florida, lived in here, I can go there these bits at a time and boom, 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 capitalize on, which is what I love about tattooing.
Dude, that's it. Yeah. I think I told you that was one of the big reasons I wanted to get into tattooing was because of the travel and because my parents said I could never be an artist and make money because
Oh man.
it was back in those days of like starving artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, you ever heard of tattooing? I can be an artist and make money.
Yeah, some of my family members, they did, even once I was doing well tattooing, they did not believe it.
Oh, yeah.
They thought that I was doing something else.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know.
My parents still both have 0 tattoos. My dad was in the Navy and never got a tattoo, but they're my biggest fans.
My dad was in the Navy, never got a tattoo.
Ooh, man, yeah.
Yeah, my dad never got a tattoo. He went to Vietnam. He was in the Navy, stayed in the Navy for years after Vietnam. Lived in Cuba as a baby because he was stationed in Guantanamo Bay. Got out of the Navy, started doing drugs, was a fucking criminal, on the run from the law, motorcycle gang, riding motorcycles, fucking everything you think you could ever do that would end up getting a tattoo, and he never got a tattoo.
Damn.
And he was an artist.
Hmm.
And when I started getting tattooed, he was just like, oh, you know, and I was just like, I can't believe you never got a
Yeah, no
tattoo.
shit.
And he's like, everybody he knew all had tattoos. And he's just like, oh, fucking, I never want any of that bullshit. And then the funny story is that I got his name on my knuckles. And when I showed it to him, I was like, Dad, I hold my hands out. And he goes, God damn it. Why'd you have to bring me into your bullshit? And so, but he was also a big fan.
Yeah.
You know, he was a supporter, but my dad was like the kind of guy that was kind of derogatory complimentary. Like
Yeah.
any compliment
Backhanded.
came with, yeah, you know, whatever, you know, just he would talk he'd make fun of me for anything I did. Long hair, earrings, tattoos, skateboarding, whatever, you know, just like whatever. But my mom, super supportive. She, you know what I mean? Like, I could do no wrong. Even when I was fucked up and in and out of jail, my mom thought I was like a perfect little angel or whatever.
Oh,
My mom did get a little tattoo, though.
yeah?
Yeah. But not till after it was popular on television.
Yeah, my mom thought about it, but the ideas she was throwing at me, I told her
You're better off without it.
told her mom, just don't give them. Better off without one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What about your wife? You tattooed?
She tattooed?
Is she tattooed?
Yeah.
Was she tattooed before you knew her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you meet her through tattooing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how else you gonna meet somebody, right?
Yeah.
Bunch
Tattoo
of fucking
convention.
tattooed losers.
Yeah.
You're only gonna meet within this fucking little shitty gene pool.
All my friends, yep, everybody,
Yeah.
all through tattooing, yep, everybody.
You think your kids will end up getting tattooed?
My middle daughter talks about it all the time. My son, I'm not sure. They both tattooed me already, though.
Yeah.
So they both,
The 9-year-old and the 5-year-old?
yeah, both of them have tattooed me. My 9-year-old said he wants to be like a performer, like a musician and a tattooer, he told me.
No, there's some of those out there.
I told him it's totally possible. Yeah.
How old's the littlest kid? A year and a half?
A year and a half.
How old were the other kids when they tattooed you?
One just the 4-year-old she's almost 5. She just tattooed me, so she's 4, and I think my son was 4.
You got to get the other one to do it when they're like 2 or 3 or something. What's the youngest? I remember a guy I used to work with had a daughter, and like she wanted to get a little tattoo. She came in and tattooed him, and we had to find the tiniest little single coil machine because she couldn't hold the machine. I don't remember how old she was, but she was young enough to where she couldn't hold the machine without it falling over. So I got this one of those little Jim Dandy little thinger,
yeah.
And she did a little tattoo on him. I don't remember how old she was, but she was fucking young.
My son might have been 3 because I held like the frame in the back.
Oh yeah,
for him. Yeah, he might have been 3. I don't know. Yeah, it's funny, man.
Well, at least he didn't use a dildo to do it.
Nope, neither of them did.
That's good.
Nope, they did not.
Yeah, I've been going through the fire dealing with this whole dildo business.
That's some big business, dude.
Oh, people are
some haters.
I mean, I'm the hater.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm getting from the masses. That
you're the
I'm
aggressor.
I'm like the old. Anything bad you can say about me is what they're saying. Like I'm the old, worn out, busted ass, fucking one trick pony, over the hill, never was been, fucking closed minded, you know, gatekeeper, whatever they can fucking say about me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm so like, oh, bully. I get the bully a lot too. And I'm like, yeah, stay off the dildo.
We're all allowed to have opinions, man. And if you don't like it, then why not be able to have it?
Exactly. That's what I say.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk a bunch of shit and say whatever I want. If you don't like it, just don't listen.
Yeah.
But people do listen. They do complain about it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
People like to get angry about things, you know. I find on my story, I'll post things that I would have never thought would rile someone up, and I'll get somebody sending me like, "Hey, you shouldn't." I was by the river one time and took a picture of like the river, and there's some rocks stacked, and somebody sent me a message, "I shouldn't be stacking rocks. It's going to disrupt the environment." I didn't even stack the rocks. I just took a picture.
I'm just a witness.
Yeah,
Hey, I have stacked rocks.
I have.
Yeah,
I'm a
stacking
rock
rocks. Why
stalker. It's
wouldn't you
fun.
stack? I mean,
Yeah.
I did hear recently that stacking rocks is bad, and I can't remember
Okay.
what the reason was.
Yeah, something about disrupting the ecosystem, I'm sure. But all of it's such a joke when you look at what we're doing to the planet as a whole. It's like you
Don't
give a
stack
fuck,
them right. Yeah. Oh man, you can't read. You can't pronounce the words on the ingredient list of your chip bag, but you don't want me to stack a fucking rock.
Don't do it.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's where we are.
Yeah, I swear I just saw a video about a guy the other day that his whole thing was stacking rocks.
Oh, I saw one too.
And people were complaining about him stacking rocks.
Yeah.
But it's pretty funny. He did some pretty incredible.
I think I seen the same thing. He did some arches and stuff.
Some balancing.
Yeah.
The rock balancer.
It was awesome.
I mean, disruptive.
Yeah, dude.
Totally disruptive.
Yeah.
Well, man, you're in Dallas.
Yeah.
Working at shop for a couple days. Pretty stoked to have you.
I'm stoked to be here.
You came to Dallas a few years ago for Elm Fest.
I've been twice.
And that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And we got a pretty good lineup for Elm Fest this year. You're not on it because you got problems. What's your problem?
10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary. That's 10 years. That's 10 problems.
Every year, my wife, she could care less if I go. We just celebrate it some other time.
Yeah.
She told me I could go again, but it's 10 years.
10 years.
That's like telling me don't give me a Christmas present, and then,
Yeah.
you gotta give me
I mean, I've been on both ends of that spectrum before. I've been like, hey, let's not get Christmas presents. And then you get one anyway.
Yeah.
And they're like, we said don't get one. I'm like, well, and then you say don't get one, and then you don't get it. And then it's like, I should have got one.
Yeah.
So.
But then you invited me to this anyway, so I figured this would be the.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it gave me an excuse. I wanted to come down to the shop for a while.
Yeah. So one of the things I do with Elmfest every year is I try to get a handful of artists. There's always people I know and people that have come on and off over the years. I try to mix it up every year. But one of the things I try to do every year is get a handful of people that have never come and tattooed in Dallas before. And so I reached out to you, not knowing you at all, only, knowing your tattoos and knowing and liking your tattoos and just, man, this guy looks fucking cool. Let's see if he'll come. And my girlfriend was like, you got to get him to come. And so I was like, message you. I love this. I love this. This is me and you. I feel like we just like instantly clicked. I invited you to come to the show, and it was was it 2021?
It was like right in the end of COVID. It was at the end.
Yeah, it might have been 2021, and it was kind of in that little period where people were still like, "Are you going to have it?" Like, because it was still some places in the world people were still iffy. We were not iffy in Dallas, but some people were.
Yeah.
And I invited you, and you responded pretty quickly. And I don't remember exactly what you said.
I know what I did.
But let's hear it.
I said something to the effect that I would love to come, but if you were going to do any kind of like vaccine passports or testing, that I would.
Or mask.
Yeah, that I would humbly decline.
And I was like, I instantly responded with like, woohoo!
Fuck no. That whole thing.
Because I had done the same. People had invited me, and I was like, well, if you got to wear a mask, I'm not fucking going.
I didn't wear a mask the whole time during COVID, and not because. It was partly because I care, but I had a private studio, so I didn't have to argue. I saw, again, all these relationships split between tattoo owners and shops. I didn't have to deal with any of that. So
we had it all out.
Yeah. I would just let clients come, and I would tell them that I what the deal was, and that I didn't want to wear one. And if they had an issue with that, then I had no problem with them canceling, give them a full refund. And I didn't have a single person have a problem with it. I had people come in with double masks. Nobody cared. It was not an issue.
Yeah. I mean, that was my experience. My experience with my customers is I said, as soon as the thing was going on and they announced people that I had appointments with, they got emailed and said, hey, Oliver will still be at this appointment. If you need to cancel it or change it or whatever, no problem. If you come to this appointment, Oliver will not be wearing a mask. If you have a problem with that, you can blah, blah, blah. And like nothing.
Yeah.
No problem. I did have some people that work for me that were up in arms about it and threw a fit. And they told me that it was my duty to enforce this mask mandate on everybody. And I was like, no, it's not my job.
Yeah.
I don't work for any enforcement agency. I can't tell you what to do with your own face. I'm not going to let anybody tell me what to do with my own face. Everybody do what they want to do.
Not going to tell the clients what to do.
Not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to tell people they can't they can't wear a mask. I'm not going to tell them they have to wear a mask. I'm not going to tell them anything. I'm just going to be like, you
do what you want.
You want a tat? I'll do it.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
Yeah, man. My dad's a pathologist, so during all that stuff, I was just like, man, I'm seeing 5 videos tell me masks work, and I'm seeing 5 videos tell me they're bullshit. Like, can you please tell me what the fuck is going on? And he's like, you wear an N95 mask with a shaved face, don't touch it, change it every couple hours. You're probably helping people. He's like, anything else, absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
So I just, it's like there's principles in life, and some things are worth not doing.
I mean, I grew up with the live fast, die young mentality.
Yeah.
And the fuck the world mentality and the fucking do whatever you want to fucking do mentality. And if it's in the air and we're all going to get it. End of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, fuck it. If this is it, this is it.
Homeless people aren't dying.
Nobody's dying.
Yeah, it was a weird time, but again, I just turned it into a game.
Yeah. I think we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that was our first interaction, is that text message. And you were just like, and I was like, fuck yes, dude. No way.
Yep. And then I got linked up with Tim Beck again. R.I.P. Tim Beck, dude.
Man.
Jesus Christ.
What a great guy.
A great guy.
What a great guy.
Thank you for linking us up. I tell that story how you always put people in booze at the last second. And both times I've been, you put me with the coolest people. And me and Tim Beck, like, I didn't really know how we would get along,
I knew you would get along great.
Dude, instantly, Tim was the coolest, man.
Yeah.
And I ended up going out and working at his shop for a week in Peoria.
How cool is that shop?
So awesome, dude. Little hidden gem.
Yeah, Peoria, Illinois is a great city.
Yeah, it's cool.
Small town city. But it's a city, but it's a very small town vibe. And the people there are, it's just great. It's kind of got a pretty good punk rock scene.
Uh-huh.
And it's so close to Chicago, but a million miles away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it is a whole different world. And I love it there. And Tim, the only reason I ever went there is because of Tim Beck.
Same, yeah.
And his shop is one of the coolest tattoo shops.
Yeah.
And that's what I love traveling, going to tattoo shops, because there's so many there's a familiarity about, all these shops. But then there's also something really special and unique at each one.
Yeah.
And whether it's Tinta Cantina in Albuquerque or Freedom Inc. in Peoria, there is something familiar when you walk into any tattoo shop. There's always at least something familiar about it.
Yeah.
And people talk to me about traveling all the time and about this city and that city. And really, I just go to tattoo shops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's, I love it.
That's what I do. Yeah. Tattoo shops and eat. That's it, man. That's what I'm there for. Yeah. I was just at Full Hearts. We were talking. That's another temple.
Jimmy Perlman, beautiful shop.
Dude.
That shop has been there not very long.
Yeah, like a year.
And it already has like the soul of an institution, doesn't it?
Dude, he has the Coleman Dragon. That place is oozing with everything tattoo and just the location. Yeah, it's amazing.
Cool building, cool spot.
Yeah.
They had a fucking snowstorm on the beach in Florida. What the fuck is going on?
I saw, man. The week I was there, I kind of get like the seasonal down stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Florida. And then I get there and it's 20 degrees. Me and Jimmy are turning on the faucets at night, dripping them at night.
So, how long were you there?
About a week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah.
Cool shop, cool people. He's a very gracious host.
He was awesome, dude. The TM.
Yeah.
He was the best.
Camp Counselor Jimmy, we call him.
The best, dude.
And now he's got that shop that's kind of like a cabin
It
campground,
is,
so it's
dude.
perfect for Camp Counselor Jimmy.
Hell yeah.
You know, he worked on the Warp Tour for so many years, and he was like the babysitter to all these bands, being a tour manager. And he was definitely more like a camp counselor than he was a tour manager.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Insanity.
It's so fun. Yeah.
So what's 2025 got for your plans? Where are you going? Where are you traveling to?
After this, the only thing I have on the schedule is Salt Lake City. You'll be there, huh?
I'll be there.
And then hopefully Albuquerque. Another big
Yeah.
RIP to fucking Bale,
Jeez.
dude.
It's insane.
I know this year's been crazy.
I haven't heard anything about Albuquerque Tattoo Convention yet.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people that work there, and they're just the only word I've got is that some people are working on it.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big shock too.
Yeah.
Finding out about Bale and just the way that went down is I can't even get into that. It's so insane.
Yeah.
I actually only tattooed at Bale Shop one time, and it was last summer. Not too long, you know. Went through on a motorcycle tour and tattooed there one day. That shop is insane.
That's Ernie's favorite shop.
Really?
Yeah.
That
Ask
shop
him.
is so big.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, it's huge in there. I mean, there's cars in there.
Koi pond.
There's cars inside the tattoo shop, and enough room to put 20 more cars inside there.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how many stations there are.
A lot.
More than 20.
Yeah.
Insane. There's a shoe store, a coffee shop, supply store.
Yeah.
It's the biggest shop. It's got to be the biggest tattoo shop.
It has to be. Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what second place is. That place is humongous.
Ernie likes to ball in that shop balling. It is, dude. It's the spot.
Oh,
but it's
man.
in the hood too. It's kind of right in the cut right there.
It's less in the hood every year.
Yeah, that neighborhood, the Borellis, is like
now there's now there's hipster coffee shops and artisan toast stores and
but it's all
store on the corner selling crystal rocks and stuff.
It'll always be hood there though.
Yeah, well, I mean, Albuquerque, I think the whole Albuquerque is hood.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully I'll be tattooing at that convention. If they don't have it, I'll probably go to Albuquerque. My grandma still lives outside of there, so it's a trip home. My family's lived off, like my roots in Albuquerque are both sides of my family, and my dad's goes back to 1880 in Albuquerque.
Really?
Yeah, both sides of my family have lived there forever.
So you were born in Dallas because he was in the military.
Yeah,
stationed out here.
Yeah, my parents met in Albuquerque at the university. My mom grew up there. My grandfather grew up there. My grandmother grew up there. Everybody. So I'll probably
a lot of green chili.
I want to move back there one day.
Oh, really?
One day. Maybe when the kids are out of the house.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But hopefully I'll work Albuquerque. And then
but you like that dry, hot climate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. And you can get to the mountains.
You're up in the cold wet now.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is cool too, but it's humid.
Yeah.
But it's green. It's like I live in the jungle, man. All summer, just a wall of green all around my house. A million kind of birds.
I mean, Albuquerque's got every shade of tan you could ever want.
Yeah, that's one reason we left. If you want a house that's by the river, it's millions or a million, And that's the only green. I guess you can go to the mountains, but yeah. It's tan.
A lot of tan. A lot of tan. I've had a lot of good times there though. It's a motherfucker to ride. When you ride a motorcycle to California, getting out of Texas and across New Mexico is like, yeah.
Yeah, because we used to drive to that convention in Long Beach from Albuquerque, so it's probably that same or similar drive.
Yeah,
14 hours or 12 or something like that.
As soon as you get to, if you go the north route and go through Flagstaff, it's beautiful. You get up in the mountains to get it, but you still got to cross Texas and New Mexico to get out of Summertime out there,
It's hot.
It's hard work riding a
Yeah.
motorcycle across that thing.
Albuquerque's high up too, so you mix that with the heat, and it's hot.
I mean, there's been a few times that we pulled in Albuquerque at night, and you've been blazing hot, sweating to death all day, and then you come down that hill into Albuquerque at night, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes. And you're like, this is great. And you stay the night in Albuquerque, you wake up in the morning and leave, and 10 minutes after you leave, it's like boiling hot again.
The oasis.
So move back to Albuquerque.
Or New Mexico in general. You know,
Yeah.
when I was a child, I've been drawing since before I could remember. That was my thing.
Yeah.
And as a child, we would visit. We lived in California, but my grandmother was in Albuquerque, so we'd visit since I was 2. We've been going there all the time. And my main influence when I was a child was the Native American art and ceremonies. And they'd take me to all the museums and all the pueblos, and I would just draw this Native American face, this front facing thing endlessly, you know? So between that and the family history,
Yeah.
feels like the place.
So where you're living now, you have no family up there?
My wife's family.
Oh, she's from, is that where she's from? Or
Yep, that general area.
Oh,
that's why we ended up, her grandma was getting near the end of her life, so we went to spend a few years with her while she was getting older. And to buy it was this is the first house we've ever owned, so we could afford it, you know, what we wanted.
Yeah.
River rats.
A little bit of land on the river.
Yeah.
And so she grew up out there?
Yep. And she spent her whole life trying to get away, so going back was a big deal, you know? But you find that a lot, you know, people that are like, I would tattoo in Seattle, and there'd be kids who'd be like, man, I fucking hate Seattle, that grew up there, and there's nothing to do here. So no matter what, I think it takes moving away to reconcile your hometown sometimes. So
or back to what I was saying earlier, just don't get stuck there.
Yeah.
Like a jail cell.
Yeah. You got to travel. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been many years that I traveled around thinking about possibly living somewhere else, you know, but then I would go to Seattle, and after like a week, I was like, I can never live here, you know?
Yeah, man.
That's a rough place to live.
New York sounds awesome until you're there for a couple days, and then
no,
I'm ready to go.
That was filming the show in New York and being there for so many months and months and months on end over the course of a decade. It was like, that was a jail sentence.
That's where they filmed it?
Newark, New Jersey, right across the river from New York City. And it was, I dreaded it. I dreaded going back there. It was very exciting the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
And then it's miserable in the winter.
I've never visited in the winter.
It's just ice and frozen and forever. And then it's miserable in the summer because it's just all concrete and boiling hot. And then it's okay in the spring. But man, and it rains all fall. It rains all fall. And people love it.
People seem to love it.
And they tell me they love it. And they can't ever explain. I can never understand what it is they love about it.
When I tattooed there last year, and it seemed like people either absolutely loved it and were obsessed with it, or hated it and were depressed but couldn't leave. Those were the two schools.
Yeah, where do you work at?
Good Luck.
Oh, cool.
With Kiku and
Rainbow. I have not been to that shop, but I love those guys.
It was so much fun. A guy that
the shop looks killer. Dreyfus is there.
Yes, I was gonna say. Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah, love Dreyfus.
He was awesome. Him and I have the same birthday.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he used to live at my house here in Dallas.
He told me story. He had awesome stories.
Well, we have a lot of stories, dude. Oh my God.
He had fun stories from all over the place, dude. He was awesome. Him and I still chat.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I love Kiku, and like when they were at Invisible, that was the coolest place in town. And then I was stoked that they got that shop open. It looks amazing.
It's beautiful, and they're all very hospitable, and everybody who tattoos there is
incredible.
So good.
Yeah,
Dude.
incredible.
So good.
Yeah, I don't think I've been back to the city since they opened that shop. I've been out to Jersey. Um, I go up there to a motorcycle swap meet in Pennsylvania every spring.
Oh, yeah.
And I usually go over and work at my buddy's shop in New Jersey while I'm there because it's close, but close to where the motorcycle swap meet is, like
Sure.
an hour or less. But then it's another hour to trek over the bridge or through the tunnel to New York, and it's never worth it for me. But I would like to. If I was going to go to New York, I would like to see that shop.
The shop is killer, and there is good food all over the place.
Lots of good food.
And good vegan stuff.
Lots of good vegan food.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I loved about the city is all the food.
Yeah, man. That's when we moved out to the country, no food, no good food, and an hour and a half from the airport when we made our list of like ups and downs, you know?
Oh, man.
Those were the two things that we're sacrificing.
Yeah, but now you're eating at home. You're eating clean.
Yeah, we eat a lot at home.
You're eating clean food.
Yeah.
You're not eating high fructose corn syrup and processed seed oils.
I stopped eating seed oils for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then went out because I saw this thing that supposedly eating seed oils is what caused you to have like skin cancer and stuff. So I didn't wear sunscreen for 2 summers and I didn't get burned at all. But when I get hot, I get out of the sun.
I have heard this.
So you feel yourself starting to burn and you go in the shade and then you go back out. But yeah, I didn't get burned at all. No sunscreen.
Man.
So I don't know if it's true, but it was an experiment that seemed to be true.
Yeah. So you're still not eating seed oils?
I mean, I'll get like...
Or you don't know?
If I go get a bowl of ramen while I'm here in town, I'm going to get it.
You think there's in there?
Probably. There has to be.
Oh, my God. It's fucking...
But I don't get it very much.
They're trying to kill us with these seed oils.
Yeah. If you go look even at organic stuff now, organic's not even... It feels silly even buying organic food now because even the list, it's all...
Yeah. I mean, they say that like 100% extra virgin organic olive oil is only like 60% olive oil.
Yeah.
The rest of it's got other shit in it. I was like, wait a minute. It says like you can put things on the label that aren't true, but there's some way around what they can say something is without saying it.
Yeah.
It is.
So that's why I'm in the farmer's market. I rather eat non-organic from the farmer's market than organic from the store. And I've seen this thing where apples will like sit on like in a warehouse for a year before they get put on the shelf.
A year? I can't get an apple to sit on the shelf for 2 days without going bad.
It's not coated in wax and controlled temperature and
yeah,
that.
I guess.
I don't know.
It's kind of like a non-profit business. It has to donate like 20% of its profit to charity to be nonprofit. So nonprofit doesn't mean you don't make any profit, which is what's weird. You would think when it says nonprofit, it means they're not making profit, but they're just making a different kind of profit.
A certain amount. Yeah.
They're fucking you.
Yeah.
They're fucking us.
Yeah.
The fucking seed oils. There's probably seed oil in the ointment you use for tattooing. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? It's in everything. Everything is killing us. So.
Speaking of killing us, there's a new topic about this guy that died.
Oh, yeah.
You heard about this. So a guy, I'm sure by now most of y'all have heard this, but a guy went under anesthesia to receive tattooing because he had a bunch of money and couldn't take the pain, so he decided to go under anesthesia, and he ended up dying. Now, I've heard that he actually didn't even make it to the portion of the part where they started tattooing.
He wasn't getting tattooed.
Well, they went under anesthesia, but before they could start the tattooing, complications with the anesthesia arose.
Sure.
And then he ended up dying.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they started tattooing him and he died, but I would still say the tattooer involved, you're still a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of those things, like, people die going under anesthesia,
all the time.
so it's only a matter of time. I had clients sending me to and I'm like, "People die under anesthesia,
I
man."
did see a lot of craziness on the internet where a lot of people were, saying all kinds of mean things about it. Obviously, I say obviously.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm against the whole idea of going under anesthesia to get tattooed.
sure.
Um, but my reasoning for being against it wasn't because you could die doing it. Because you could die doing a lot of things that I choose to do on a
Sure.
daily basis, and I'm not gonna stop doing them because I might die doing it, whether
Yeah,
it's drive a car, ride a motorcycle, get on an airplane, fucking skateboard, whatever you're gonna do, you could die doing anything.
yeah.
Um, but I'm against it just because I don't think that you should subvert should be able to subvert the pain to get tattooed.
There's, not many rites of passage left in our world, and I think that's one reason tattooing's important, and you skip it with that for sure.
Yeah.
Skip it.
There's a guy who's a pro football player for Dallas Cowboys who went under anesthesia and had 4 people tattoo him for, like, 15 hours, and so he got, like, 60 hours of tattooing in one day while he's asleep, and I'm just like, "You fucking pussy." But anyway, and he got, like, a Mickey Mouse. You got a bunch of tats, obviously, but
Sure.
I was like, "You just literally got some Mickey Mouse bullshit. You couldn't take the pain, you got some Mickey Mouse bullshit, and you're a fucking pro football player spending all this money on it." It's just like, I hope that something comes to fruition with this where this people realize this is not a good thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those one of those new fancy things, like everything. It's this new thing or something you can do that seems the quick way,
If you're
the
rich
quick
enough, you
yeah.
don't have to hurt.
You don't have to hurt and you don't have to you don't have to do anything. You don't have to travel, you don't have to do anything.
I don't like it.
Yeah. It's not my way. There's ways for everybody, but it's not my way and it's not the way, I would ever guide someone to getting a tattoo. I think a lot of it, it's like the exchange of the tattoos is more important than the tattoo a lot of times.
I mean, a lot of my tattoos were received from people that I loved and liked and looked up to and respected, and that that transfer of getting that tattoo from them to me was a very important process.
Yeah.
Jack Rudy did my top of my hand in 1995, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Yeah.
Can imagine just going to sleep for that.
You'd be gone.
What a loser.
Yeah, man. It takes something a client said to me that really struck home too a couple maybe like 4 or 5 years ago was, they were like, I can't go and meet my favorite band. I can't just go meet them. I can't go meet my favorite painter, but I can go meet my favorite tattooer. I can book an appointment and I can go sit down and talk to that person for 2 to 4 hours or whatever. You can't do that with most people that you want to interact with, like on a people that you look up to on like a creative level. You can't just go meet them. And I think that's something special about tattooing is that interaction.
I mean, that's what I spent 20 years of my life doing,
Yeah.
traveling the world and getting tattooed by people, and I think that I mean, that's what I owe everything in this business too, is those experiences with all those people and learning and watching and being a part of it and getting ingrained in the community, and just it hurts. And your willingness to, like, make it through that, I think, adds a lot to it. And I
Yeah.
don't I don't expect every tattoo client to relate to it the same as we did.
Sure.
It's but a lot of them do. But I do think that everybody that gets a tattoo is passing through some sort of rite of passage
Yeah.
that you're getting to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to negate that completely is just against the idea of the process at all.
Well, and again, like when someone comes in and they're like, timid or it's their first tattoo or whatever, and you can see that energy, but you guide them through it and they get through it and they sit like perfect,
Yeah.
and then kind of the pride that they get to have after, they felt like this kind of like small, timid person, but you know, they got through it. They got through a big tattoo that some big men cry about.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, I've cried plenty.
dude. Yeah, as long as you sit still.
Oh, man, there's a few times where I was, I remember specifically I was getting my ribs tattooed by Jeff Rasher, and it was just to the point where I like couldn't. I was like screaming, and he was just doing some finishing off he was like shading background, and he was like, "You gotta stay still." I was like, "It doesn't fucking matter. It's just background. Just go, just just like at this mentality." It was like a very funny moment where I'm just like, I don't care. Like, if the line's a little shaky, let's just like, I'm being as still as I possibly can. Oh, it's insane. But yeah, there's parts on the body where it's like, it's intense to get through.
Yeah.
And the only way to deserve that tattoo is to get through it. You can't the idea of just.
I've tried taking pain pills. I've tried negating stuff, and nothing works better than just leaning into the pain.
I mean, the pain pills just make you feel sick.
I would just feel it wouldn't help at all, and then I'd just be super high. When I was getting the front of my stomach and ribs tattooed, it was at Lucky Devil South, and I was taking a bunch of pills and they weren't doing anything, so I was just taking more. And Ernie was like, "Christopher, you better stop, or you're gonna fucking kill yourself." And they didn't help at all. And that was, I think, the last time I ever tried to.
I think the way I described it to somebody about taking pills and getting tattooed is like, it doesn't make it hurt less. It just makes it where instead of you're going like, ow, you're just going like, ow. Still hurts the same. Your reactions are just changed. You're inside, it still hurts
Feels the
still
same.
hurts your soul the same amount. You're just not like, ugh.
That's it, man.
I say just, if you can't handle the pain, don't get tattooed.
Yeah.
It's easy. That's the easiest way for it not to hurt. Just don't get a tattoo.
It's not for everybody. Doesn't have to be.
It shouldn't be for everybody.
Yeah. Not everything is.
Well, I'm super stoked that you're here. I'm glad you're back in Dallas. And I'm stoked to have you at the shop.
Yeah, likewise.
And I thank you for coming in here and sitting down and bullshitting with me.
Yeah, man.
And I look forward to seeing all the things you got going on in the near future. How many more kids you gonna have?
I got a vasectomy.
So the answer is 0.
Done, dude. Done.
Speaking of getting the snip, our co-producer John.com is slated to get the snip here coming up pretty soon.
It was easy, but I went to this military doctor who had done like thousands and thousands of them. So she was awesome.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
It's it looks really simple, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So when I got mine, I watched the whole thing. It was locally numb. And I was just like, man, I could do this. It's like the most simple. The only part that I think I would like not do as well as the doctor did is when he stitched it up, he stitched it perfectly. Like the stitches were, pull the skin, it's loose skin too, it's like, and it's like stitch it up just perfectly. I was like, yeah, I probably have to practice that stitching up part a few times. But the cutting open, the finding the tube, the pulling the tube out, snipping the tube, cauterizing the tube, all that, I could do that no problem.
Yeah, not a lot to it.
Nobody's so far. I've given the spiel to many people that want to get the snip. Nobody so far is like taking me up on letting me do it to them. But it was very quick.
Yeah.
Painless. I mean, when the numbing shot at the beginning.
That was the worst part.
But
it wasn't that bad.
Not as bad as going to the dentist.
No, way easier.
But in your head, it's wild.
End of the world.
Like you're watching this dude like pull things out of your nuts, and you're just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And my other friends of mine have like, oh, I couldn't watch. I was like, well, I couldn't not watch.
Yeah, man. You're not going to get that opportunity again.
Oh, man.
See the inside of the coin purse.
Oh, John, it's going to be great.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. It's going to be good. So 3's it?
3's it. Yep. That's enough for me.
Did you, how soon after the third kid did you decide that?
I decided right away, but it took me a while to go do it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you're terrified of until you go do it.
Yeah. Joint decision between you and the lady?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's done.
Oh, yeah. The last one almost killed her.
Oh, I mean, childbirth used to kill a lot of people.
We had the last 2 at home,
Oh,
and the last one I delivered before the midwife got there,
oh man.
so I got to do everything. It was pretty cool.
You're fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, it was wild.
I witnessed a birth one time. It was fucking wild.
Yeah.
Insanity. So what happened? It just a little bit early?
Yeah, like, from start of her, she was, like, at her due date, but from, like, the start of labor to the baby coming was, like, 45 minutes, and it's supposed to take hours and hours and hours and
Could
hours.
take hours and
Yeah,
hours.
so she started after the baby came, she started hemorrhaging and had to get rushed to the ER and multiple blood transfusions and all that stuff.
So lucky to be here.
Lucky, dude.
Damn. I knew another friend of mine years and years ago that was going to do the at-home birth, and then the labor complicated, and they had to rush
Mm-hmm.
to the ambulance had to come and get her to the hospital and do all the things that whatever they had to do, and it was very close.
Yeah.
Both the mother and the baby almost didn't make it, but they did. But it was very, very wild.
Yeah.
And you hear the stories like back in the before it was common to just go to the hospital and have a baby. A lot of people didn't make that process.
Yeah.
So for modern day, for you to decide to do it at home, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, it's like you look at it and it's another one of those things that hasn't been happening very long, going to a hospital.
Yeah.
Like historically speaking, like the whole idea behind it is when you go into a hospital, like you go there to die and when you're sick.
Yeah.
So when the mom goes in the hospital, she's like, and tenses up. And then that's when it's like, oh, you need to have this medicine to get you into labor. And then that causes this. And then you got to have a C-section, whatever. But it was good for us because our second kid we had at home and it was super easy. And we were like, yeah, fuck Western medicine. But so this was good for us to be like, there's a place for everything.
Yeah.
There's a place for everything.
Well, lucky. So the baby came out.
Yeah.
And the midwife's not even there yet. And they show up and you're just like, I got it.
Yep. It was wild, man. I don't know how to describe it. It was like psychedelics, it felt like time was.
So who was all there? Just y'all?
Yeah.
You and the 2 other kids.
The kids were sleeping.
Oh, you didn't wake them up? Come watch this?
No. A lot of people do that, but my wife, it's like, she's like, I would be too distracted.
Yeah.
So, no. My son asked though. He wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was like too much and too fast. I didn't even have time to fill up the pool. You have like a birthing pool.
Oh, you were going to do it like so where'd you end up doing it?
She just had it on our bed.
Made a mess.
Yeah, dude. Well, our second kid was in a pool, so that was cool because it was just a pool of blood. And I have a picture of my daughter. We always show her, and she's like, "Yeah, I was born in blood, Dad."
Damn.
Yeah. I don't know. Birthing's like, it's like death, man. When you come in and when you go out, it's messy.
Party.
It's messy.
That's it. I mean, it seems wild. I don't know. I mean, I have no children. And so I can't, it's hard for me to decide, hard for me to even think in that mindset if I would go that route or not. I don't know. It seems crazy though. I mean, I do like the crazier, if I'm going to pick the option of what to do, I'm going to pick the crazier option. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, living in Alaska set me up to be pretty like
self-efficient.
People up there do shit by themselves and for themselves. Yeah. And I like that. It feels good. And it felt good to go to the hospital and them help her, but also be like, yeah, you delivered the baby. Like we're writing your name on the doctor thing. Like who delivered,
yeah.
Like it was awesome.
Well, I know I got a buddy who lives in Alaska and he is very into the solitude.
Yeah.
I would love to visit, but man, it's too much solitude for me. I'm not a loner.
I'm half.
He's got bald eagles landing on his back porch and moose walking through his yard.
Yeah, man,
it's pretty. He sends me some of the most incredible photos.
Where is he?
Somewhere not far from where Eagle River Tattoo is.
I don't know where the tattoo shop, but I know where Eagle River is.
Well, there's a tattoo shop, Debbie Arian's shop.
Yeah.
He's in the outskirts of that area, whatever part of Alaska that is.
It's like southern middle outside of Anchorage.
Yeah, he's outside of town, but cool.
I went to Eagle River when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
I was too young to know about the REMs or tattoo shops. I haven't been back to Alaska since I was 16. So,
well, we have a plan to try to get up there. We want to take the ferry over.
That's what we did.
Want to ride the motorcycle to Washington, get on the ferry, ride the ferry over, ride motorcycles around up there, and then get, take the ferry back.
Dude, it's the coolest. The ferry takes the same route as all the cruise ships, so you get to see all the stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's our plan. Who knows when it'll happen? We were trying to do it a couple years ago and didn't happen, and then the 2020 happened, and and now it's been 5 years, and just there's still a lot of plans that haven't come. We did go to Japan this year though, or last year technically. We went in December and tattooed over there a little bit. Cool. Went to a Moon Eye show, and you got to get over there.
That's on my bucket list.
Yeah,
I want to go so bad.
Well,
I've had like 100 reoccurring dreams though that I die, or like I have plane crashes, and the only time I've ever died in the dreams was going to Japan.
Well,
but I think that means I have to go.
I think you'll make it.
I'll make it.
I think you'll make it, no problem.
I will.
Well, cool. Well, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, it's going to be a good fucking week, dude.
It will. I'm ready to paint too.
It's going to be a good fucking week. Yeah. And I'm glad you're back in Dallas again.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be here.
All right. We'll see you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Come on, guys. Click all those links. Push all those buttons because it really helps us out and gets us out there to more and more peeps. What in the Duck podcast is produced by Audra Cabral and John.com Niederkorn. Our sound, video engineer, and editor is Courtney, Jr. Larkins. Initial audio video setup and intro music by Blake Balake Pinchon. And a big thanks to everyone that submitted questions. Y'all keep them coming. Email me any questions you would like me to answer to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on What in the Duck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Anchor Screen Printing. Anchor Screen Printing has been printing t-shirts and merch products since 1999. Anchor is the place for quality, small run items. At Anchor, every print is hand done by people who care about art. You can email anchorcustoms@gmail.com to talk about getting something printed for your company, brand, or shop. Anchor Screen Printing also has its own online merch store that sells Elm Street Tattoo, Cheap Thrills, Heart and Hand, Party First Safety Maybe merch, and much more. So go to anchorscreenprinting.com today and buy some cool shit. Or you can click the link provided in this podcast to shop now.